Mesechta Menochos Daf Lamed Amud Aleph. We're starting from Chavtes Amud Beis, 3 lines above the wide lines, in the Tva Malchus number 38. You'll see Amud Av Yosef in the middle of the line. Chavtes Amud Beis. Sagt die Amud Av Yosef. Here you'll see on Chavtes Amud Beis, 3 lines above it. Amud Av Yosef Hani Tati Milu Amud Av B'Sfarim. There are 3 dinim that Rav had said when they gave to the halachas of Sefer Torah. 3 lines above the wide lines, Chavtes Amud Beis, above here, above the wide lines. So Amud Av Yosef, you'll see the last 3 words. So Rav Yosef, these are the 2 halachas that Rav said when they gave to Sefer Torah. Tanya to Yufta. I mean the kasha to these the 2 halachas we learned about Isa. That says Faket Chada, and Chada, one psak was Hada Amarav Sefer Torah Sheyesh B'Shteito Uyos B'Chol Daf Adav Yisakin. One din Rav said a Sefer Torah that has 2 mistakes on every omit, on every column, every omit, I would say Daf Adav. He's saying every omit he has to fix it, but Shalish to Uyos. But if he has 3 mistakes in every daf, then you don't fix the Sefer Torah. You gones. You have to put it in shemus. Okay? The Tanya to Yufta. Then we learned in the Braisa differently. Shalish, 3 mistakes in every daf. Yisakin. Here it says Yisakin. Before we said Shalish, Yigones. Here he says Yisakin. And Arba Yigones. But if it's 4 mistakes every daf, then you have to put it in shemus. Tana, we learned in the Braisa im yesh by daf achat shleima.
Where did they get these numbers from?
Doesn't say where. I don't know. Tanya, we learned in the Braisa im yesh by daf achat shleima that if one daf is without mistakes, so then even if it has 4 mistakes, matzalas kulay, it saves the whole Sefer Torah, and you can fix even with 4 mistakes as long as you have one daf, perfect. Yeah. But if it's perfect, it's matzelas. Amar Rav Yitzchak, Rav Shmuel B'Amata, Mishmei de Rav. Rav Yitzchak Shmuel B'Amata said in the name of Rav. This that we said that the daf echad is matzel is dafke dechsiv rubei de sifra shaper. That's only if most of the sefer was written karoya. That means the majority of every daf was without mistakes. Okay, but if in every daf there's mistakes more than 5 or 6 mistakes, then it's no good. That's one shita, and then he brings another shita.
On every daf.
So even if there's 30 or 40 mistakes in every daf, that's a different pirish. The one daf is going to help as long as the letters are written karoyi. It's possible for then you can fix it. But ours are 100% kosher. We have many dafim that are perfect. Okay, that if in that same daf hasholim was sholish ta'uyis, what's going to be the thing? What's if it had a very minimal amount of mistakes? Every daf had mistakes, but there's one daf had only 3 mistakes, which you're allowed to fix it. Do we look at it as a daf shalom because all you have to do is fix it, and then we say,
there are some mistakes that you can't fix, and then mistakes that
we're talking about there were 3 mistakes on it that you can fix, and there was not one perfect daf. You couldn't find, but you found one daf with 3 mistakes that you can fix. If he fixes it, is it a daf shalom? Yeah, but we want to, but not usually we say if there's 4 mistakes on each daf. Or according to one day, 3 mistakes in each daf, you have to put it in Genisa. But what's if it was 3 or less, or 2 mistakes, or 3 mistakes like the second day that you can fix? There was not one daf that was shalom, but that daf had 3 mistakes. Okay, so he says it's shalom. If after you fix it, we'll consider it as a daf shalom. Fixes this daf, and then you can fix all the other dafim.
Is this all theoretical?
No, I had a pair of tefillin that I bought. And Rabbi Asma says there's a kinderschrift, and you have to go give it back to the sefer. So this was after many years, and he gave me back $200. Then I had to buy for $700 new pashas. Amalei. Sagt die Gemara, Amma leid, Rav Yosef said to
Don't
Abai.
do bad. I bought two and I took every time. I thought it's the rashes.
Oh, yeah.
I took back every time, never give me a rash.
Oh,
So you eat better than that.
okay. Amma leid, Rav Yosef said to Abai, Hayba Yisiyar litakone mitakin. Since there's a shus to fix the Sefer Torah, which has only 3 mistakes in each daf, mitakin, you fix it, and then it's only 3 mistakes, and it's considered a daf echot sholem. It's like considered as the one of it that's sholem, and you could correct all the other ones with the mistakes. So, what kind of mistakes are we talking about? Only if there was missing a letter, then it's going to be a mistake that you cannot fix. Aval Yiseiris, less lamba. But what's if there was an extra letter? So all you do is you erase the letter. If it's too far, the Isis, so you make the previous letter and the other letter a bit thicker to make it into one word. It shouldn't look like 2 words. Zakt the Gemara, Chsedes, my time of life. Why by Chsedes did you say that you cannot fix it if it's Chsedes? Because then it looks like it's a spotted Sefer Torah. It looks like freckles on the Sefer Torah. What does that mean? That because you can't, if you have Yesedes, if you have Chsedes, you're going to have to add the word in middle between the 2 lines. So if you're going to have to do so many, if you're going to do each page, and you're going to put the extra word that's missing on the top, so you look at the Sefer Torah, some between the 2 lines, so from freckles, from dots. That's smears. Yeah. The Marzik Kiminuma, it looks like it's a bunch of spotted spots on the Sefer Torah. Ago was the father-in-law of Rabbi Abba. Havila Yiseides Besifrei. He had a whole bunch of extra letters in the Sefer Torah. He came before his son-in-law Rabbi Abba. Amalei, he says, Loya Maran. This that we said you can't fix was Ela B'Chaseides. Only if it's missing and you have to add a word on the top between the 2 lines. But Abu Yiseides, last number, Abu Yiseides is not a problem. We can fix it. All you have to do, you scratch it off. The second din, that Rab, we said there were 2 din in there. Rab said, somebody writes a Sefer Torah, once it comes to the end of the Sefer Torah, you can finish even in the middle of the daf. You don't have to wait at the bottom of the daf. Yeah, the halacha has to be at that. How could you say that? We learned the Fedish in the Braisa. You can't finish the last psukim in mitten daf. It has to come to the end.
Yeah, they make it narrow.
They make it narrow over about redden. Oh, kederach shehu goyma b'sifei chumashim. Lo yigma be'emtza daf kederach shehu goyma b'sifei chumashim. Don't finish in the middle of the daf like when you write chumashim. They wrote chumashim also. So when they write regular chumashim, nicht if lein in the Torah, chumashim if lernen. So then they allowed you to finish in the middle of the daf. So Ella, what? What are you supposed to do? Mekatzer oilech. You have to come down and narrow. Here you have the picture. There's 2 pirushim. Rashi says you start off the first line, a full line, and then you go smaller. Abim is endikin on the bottom of the daf. Yeah, so okay, it should reach to the bottom. No, you don't have to fix it. You write only the last. No, we don't have it. We have today. The guy measures it exactly. Today they have even more. They go on a computer and they write to the computer, write me the whole Sefer Torah, and the last daf should finish equally like all the other amudim. So what do? They take on the bottom and they trace it. They're not mamish. They see the oisius through the parchment, right? And that's where they write the words. He writes himself the letters differently, but the computer made it that it should end exactly symmetrically. Yeah, but in those times, so if they didn't have a way, Adam at the end, you be a full line. But okay, but you have to measure. It's not always the same. Yeah, if you and the last stuff, only the last stuff. That's according to Rashi. According to the Rambam, you're not allowed to narrow here, or it should start all at the same place. Just the first line should be longer, the second shorter till the end. But the mamish that you should finish to the end of the yom. That was the given the ikah. Mekatz v'heilach out to the sefer daf till you reach the end of the daf. So how do you say that you can finish? We just said you could finish a mitten daf. It says ki kamarav chumashim. When did Daf say by regular chumashim? What's the of this body? What did he say? Now, what did he say? Has Sefer Torah come out? Ich befehle gesagt Sefer Torah. He said the word Sefer Torah. This kein chumashim. No. So he says bechumashim shall Sefer Torah. He means in the Sefer Torah you have chumashim, right? So in the chumashim of the Sefer Torah, by the last chumash, he says that by the last chumash, when you want to finish the last chumash, meaning the chumash devarim, you could be meshana the tzura of the writing in the way, meaning that the last word of the Sefer Torah should be at the end of the daf. You could change the tzura, like we said before, either Rashi that it comes down on the angle, or you start from the same place. You start with a longer line, shorter, at least at the end of the daf. Like you want any. Is Rab masking with the Brayse that you finish the Sefer Torah with Sefer Daf? Rabbi Yishua Amarav. Well, Rabbi Yishua Amarav. Gidel Amarav. That one who writes Sefer Torah and he wants to finish it, he's allowed to finish the last words. He says, "Befeish, you can finish be'emtza daf." So he says you have to fix the lashon. He didn't say be'emtza daf. He be'emtza shita itma. He learned the middle of the shura. You can finish in the middle of a shura. You don't have to finish till the end. The shura itself doesn't have to be a full shura. It could be. It has to be at the end of the daf, but it could stop by the middle of a shura. Rabbanan Amri, Rabbanan sagen, ab be'emtza shita, also meaning even be'emtza shura, and for sure you can finish in the middle of a daf. He learns. That's how the Rabbanan learn.
Means what?
In the middle of a row. But he says for sure you can finish even be'emtza daf. He brings it down. Rashi says it. Be'emtza shita, but the Rabbanan say because she can shemutel legamrei. Be'emtza daf. Af means for sure even be'emtza daf. Okay, Ravashi Amar be'emtza shita dafke. Only be'emtza shita, nicht be'emtza daf. Zog the Gemara behilchasa be'emtza shita dafke that you have to finish to the bottom. And if you'll see, when you go to the Ksiv Sefer Torah, they're writing the last couple of lines. It's mamish by the end of the daf. That's where they're writing it, and they write it to full, but they make ze machen the werte breite, so it should finish the whole line. It should look uniform. Anyway, Zog the Gemara. Rabbi Yeshua bar Abba, Rabbi Gidel Amarav. Rabbi Yeshua bar Abba said the name of Gidel, the name of Rav. Shmoina psukim, the last 8 psukim Shabbat Torah, Yachid Koya Isam Beis HaKnesses. Only one aliyah. Those 8 last psukim, Kevin is tzetel, and even though you could tzetel 4 psukim, no. Not the last 8 psukim of the Torah. Yeah, we also do it if you need to, but not. When it comes to the end of the Sefer Torah, the decree of the end of the Sefer Torah, last 8 psukim you can. Zog Nimar Kiman. Who does it follow? He says the like Reb Shimon, not like Reb Shimon. The Tanya that we learned in the Braisa, it says Vayom Hashem Moshe Eved Hashem. Moshe died. The Eved Hashem died. In fact, Moshe Chai because Vayom Hashem Moshe. How can it be? Moshe is avek, and it says that Moshe is writing Sefer Torah as gestorben. I was giving a share for the Teferes Geinim. So Zusha, his name was Zusha, he says, I have to call home. He calls home and he calls his wife and he hears Malka, is Zusha in the Heim? He's Zusha, he ruft from phone, in the Heim. Okay, so it was height over there. The state, as Moshe Chai, because of... Die wusste Weib, aber wegen sich hat nicht gewusst, wo steht. Okay, anyway, it says, the Gemara, Ella, Ad kan kosa Moshe. It means till there Moshe wrote, till the words by Yom Hashem Moshe. Mekam el kosa Yeshua ben Nun. From there and on, Yeshua ben Nun wrote the rest of the Sefer Torah. Did Rabbi Yehuda? Others say Rab Nechemya. Others say it was the words of Rab Nechemya that said that Yeshua wrote from the words by Yom Hashem Moshe till Elena Kol Yisrael. Meaning till the end of the Sefer Torah. Amalei Rab Shimon said to Rab Yehuda, Efshe Sefer Torah Chasa is Achas Uksiv Lakay Sefer Torah Azev is something. They say, is it possible that Moshe Rabbeinu took Apostle of Sefer Torah? It's missing 8 psukim, and he treated it like a full Sefer Torah, and he put it in the Aron. How could it be? It was Apostle of Sefer Torah. Ella, we have to say Atkan Amakadosh Baruch Hu Oima U'Moshe Oima v'Kaisef. Till the last 8 psukim, the Eibishter told Moshe what to write. Moshe would say over what the Eibishter said, and then write it over. But the last psukim, Mikama Elah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Oima U'Moshe Kaisef B'Dema. But the last 8 psukim, the Eibishter told him, but he didn't say it because he was crying. He's dying. He knew he was going to die. That's one pshat. The Vilna Gaon says no. The pshat is Dema. The Eibishter didn't want to tell him, so that the Eibishter told him letters to write. So he wrote all the letters, and he didn't separate the words. So the Dema means it was a mixture. You couldn't see which words are there. L'mashal Ein Kol Yisrael was written in one word.
Why was he crying? Because he's going to die?
Yeah.
Well, he knows everybody.
No, he wanted to go to Eretz. He wanted to go to Israel. He wanted. Okay, come here. Look. Okay, so the Yemar. So U'Moshe Kaisef B'Dema. Like it says there, B'Negeiah to Baruch ben Neriah, he from the Sari Amelach. So Yirmiyah told him what's going to happen. Baruch had said over from the name of Yirmiyahu Hanavi. Mipiv Yikra Alai, from his mouth. He read to me all these words. I didn't repeat it. I just wrote it. I couldn't because it was the kinus. He didn't want to say it over. He heard it and he wrote it. So you see how that is the same by Moshe. Let us say it doesn't follow Rab Shimon, because Rab Shimon says that the last 8 psukim of the Torah was written by Moshe, like the rest of the psukim of the Torah. So if it's like the rest of the psukim of the Torah, just like by the rest of the psukim, you could divide into other aliyahs. So the 8 psukim, let him divide into 2 aliyahs. Says Gemara, you can even say it's Rab Shimon. Since it was written B'Dema, other Metrerin, he didn't repeat it and write it. Or B'Dema, like the Vilna Gaon says, that he mixed, the Eibishter dictated only letters and he shouldn't know what he's writing. But Ishtani is given, so the last 8 psukim was written differently. So therefore, those last 8 psukim is different than the rest of the Sefer Torah, and you can't divide it into 2 aliyahs. Another thing, Rabbi Shua Abba, son in the name of Rav Gidol, in the name of Rav, somebody who buys a Sefer Torah from the market. He's like he grabs a mitzvah from the shuk. So Rashi says, at Mekayim given the mitzvah, but the writing of the Sefer Torah, he wasn't Mekayim, he got schar for buying. But it's a mitzvah to write. And if he does not write, others write for him and he's fine. So Rashi says the Sefer Torah Mekayim mitzvah by one who buys a Sefer Torah, he says paket. He did fulfill, even though he didn't write. I'm sorry. Rashi says even if he didn't write the Sefer Torah, if he bought it, he has fulfilled the mitzvah of Ksiv Sefer Torah. Just he didn't do behidu. Behidu would mean, or mitzvah min avudcha would be that he writes it. But the Ramah says it's not. He wasn't mekayim nothing. And the Rosh says today when you write a Sefer Torah, today the Sefer Torah they give it to the shul. So he says better schreib nicht kein Sefer Torah, kauf nicht kein Sefer Torah, kauf svarim that you're going to learn. That is more chashuv than buying a Sefer Torah. That's how he says.
Well, as the Gemara says that if you get rich, if you win the lottery, you should buy a Sefer Torah. Because you take the money and you buy something that has.
But he says rather buy chumash. Look, he brings down those that write the Sefer Torah, they don't learn from it. They put in the Beis HaKnesset that it's Tzibur. So mitzvah sasei akol ish mi yisrael sheyodim hasags l'ksivas chumashim mishnayis hatalmud u'perishayim l'ilmud mehem ubanav. It's beser cave svarim. The Rosh. Yeah, he says it's ridiculous. I don't hold.
Today's the style. Everything.
You have to follow style. You can't go with a fat tie. Today's a kleinschke dinike tie. It doesn't work.
It's the style. So where he dies,
Yeah, by uns, my father, every shliach, my brother. I mean, we chipped in. Everybody wanted to say for Torah. Oh, it's for the tata. We wrote a whole bunch of Sefer Torahs. My father would have rather. My father said himself, rather have up a little a cheder in my name. I would rather you do that. Yeah, a little cheder. Rav Shesha said, if he bought a Sefer Torah Menashuk, and he fixed, even if you fixed one, like by you when you write in at the last it's like you wrote the whole Sefer Torah. A person, when you take the Yeriyas or the parchments, which there are minimum 3 columns, he's going to tell you the most could be 8 columns. Minimum is 3 columns on the each parchment. You can't have a tiny parchment. So if you want to tell Adam Yeriyah, he takes a parchment, mibas sholish dapin, that the parchment has to be able to carry 3 columns. It has to have 3 columns. Till 8 columns. Pachs mikain, of a yes al came lo yasa. Less than 3 columns on a Yeriyah, no good. If it's not the right size. And if it's too wide, that you have more than 8 columns, no good. And don't put too many columns. Yeah, some people want to so they take in one Yediyah and they want to put 4 columns. So the Sefer Torah will be light and will be like nothing. So no. So he says, once you start putting 4 columns on one parchment, then it looks like a letter. It's not good. And then don't make, you have a Yeriyah that you can write, let's say, 5 columns. And you want to write 2 columns, you want to write very big. But each daf, Mashiach said, but you want to write 2 columns. He says, no. Why? Because if you're going to make that by the time you finish the line, you have to look this way, and then you have to start the next line. You might skip 3 lines. So it's no good. He says, because the Eigen then famished, because you're looking like this. You're starting to read from the beginning of the table to the end of the table is 1 line. So you have to go to the next line. So you start reading from one end, you go to the end. Now you have to turn your head back and you have to go find the next line. Yeah. So he says it has to be shalosh v'amim. It has to be the amount of mishpchei 3 times, which is 30 oisies to a column. Don't have more than 30 oisies. What's if he has such a wide Yeriyah that he could put 9 columns of the Sefer Torah? So hey, don't do that. Lo yachlik, the shalish lekan v'sheish lekan. Ella abel lekan v'chamesh lekan. He says when you divide it, you can't have 9 columns. We say only 8. So he says don't cut it that one should have 6 columns and the other one should have 3. You want it to make it more synchronized. I don't know, uniform, that it should almost look the same. So cut it. One should be for 4 columns and one should be for 5 columns. So they almost look the same. These words said, when you're writing the beginning of a Sefer Torah, but at the end of a Sefer Torah, even if you only had 1 pasuk at the end of the Sefer, you could write 1 pasuk on the whole daf. You could write 1 word. If I state, you write 1 word at the beginning, the next word till you finish, and you can write a real fact. It doesn't have to match the other columns. At least you come to the bottom. In fact, you want to.
What was she writing on the last page?
Even pasuk echad says you want to afilu daf echad. You're saying in the last Yeriyah you're allowed to write in the whole Yeriyah 1 pasuk echad. So 1 pasuk. We said before it has to come down to the bottom of the daf. How are you going to take 1 pasuk and bring it down to the bottom of the daf? So he says, that if he wants, he can write the last pasuk with big oisies, right? And he'll fill it up till the bottom of the oven. There's the margin around, there's empty space around the Sefer Torah, there's empty space on the top, empty space on the bottom. Between the columns, there's empty space. There's between the words empty space, between the letters empty space. So for each one has a share. Says on the bottom of the Sefer Torah, the empty space. tefach. Has to be the size of a tefach. Umelamayla, on the top is gimel tvach. I mean, gimel place. 3 finger breadths. Ubein daf ladaf, between one column and another. It has to be 2 fingers in the width between each column.
This is at the last down.
Every daf. No. Here you need it between this column, you need 2 fingers. On the bottom you need 3 fingers. On the top you need a tefach, right? I'm sorry. On the bottom you need a tefach. On the top you need 3 fingers. Okay. What about when he writes a chumash, which is not a part of a sefer Torah? So the milmata shalosh etzba'is, not like we said before. The milmata is the same. Umelamayla is shtei etzba'is, not like we said at tefach. You have to. It's a different shear, but on the top, it's still considered as it has that kedusha. Ubein daf ledaf, between one column and another, revach gudel, like a thumb. Yes. And between one column and the other is gudel, not like we said 2 etzba'is. Ubein shita l'shita. How about in the sefer Torah between one row and another? Meaning you have one row and the bottom, you have to have the size of a row in between. Ubein teva l'teva. He says kimeloi shita, like a whole row of empty space in between each row. Ubein teva l'teva, between one word and another. Kimeloi is ketana. There has to be between one word and another space like a yud, the size of a yud. And between one letter and the next letter, it shouldn't be touching. Like the hair breadth, like a piece of hair, the width of a hair. So he says, let's say you made a cheshbon, you're writing a Megillah. I'm going to give it a Megillah. So you're going to write klinchke oisies, because according to your cheshbon, I need to have a tefach of empty space. And I made the cheshbon. If I made the whole cheshbon, on this summit, I'm not going to be able to have a 3 tefachim. I mean a tefach. So I'm going to if I make the oisius half the size of the first line, perfect. He says, no, you're not allowed to do it. Let the gillion be less than a tefach. The oisius should be right, the right size. And even if the bottom, the same thing. And also when it comes to between one line and the next, he should always write the full size, and not because of the difference between one pasha and another. There's pasha stuma, the pasha psucha. Pasha stuma is that it finishes the middle of the line. I think so. And pasha stuma is when it's on the end of the line. So no, I'm sorry. Pasha stuma maschil lo'ila be'emtza is in the middle of the shura. Pasha psucha. So there you have to leave spaces. So
9 letters.
9
letters.
9 letters, correct. That's what makes the middle. So he says over there, if you're going to write it small, you're going to have 9 letters. If you're going to write it regular size, you're going to have less. He says write the regular size. So it's not like teva. Let's say you had a word of 5 letters. He shouldn't write 3 on the line on the column, and the 2 should go in the margin, in the empty space. He says you cannot write 2 on the daf in the regular place, and 3 should go in the margin.
Wait, he had no place?
He had no place. If you had 3 b'seich hadaf, then the other 2 letters you could even put on the margin. So what's if you had only a word that was 2 letters, and one letter would end up on the shura, on the regular amud, and the other letter would end up on the margin. He says, don't play around with that. He says, then don't put that one letter between the 2 columns. Go down to the next line, at the beginning of the next line, and write that letter words of 2 L.
But not in here.
But don't even write one letter. No, aleph here and a lamed here and on the mountain. Don't do that. Put the whole word on the next sheet.
Is it possible to do that?
I don't know. Possible. He says don't do it. I don't know if it's possible. So somebody who made a mistake and he left out the Eibishter's name. So he scrapes off the word, the next word after the name of Hashem, the Toila is Mashagara. And what the letter that he scraped off, that he puts on top of the line. Again, let's see if I have a pasuk over here. Does he bring a pasuk? Okay, it's hard. Okay, so let's say he has a pasuk where it has Hashem's name, and then comes another word. Vayoma Hashem el Meshul Mashal. Vayoma Hashem. He left out the Eibishter's name, and he wrote El. Right now, Moshe. So, and there's no room now. So he says, Vayoma El. Take out El, and put in Hashem, and the L put on top of the line. That's it. That should be Toila. Yeah. But Toila es Mashagara. Whatever that word that he scraped out, he should be Toila. Should put it on the top. So and the name of Hashem, he puts it where he scraped off the word L. Those are words of Rabbi Yehuda. He says, no, you don't have to scrape nothing. Put Hashem's name on the top of the row. Yeah, Rabbi Yitzchak says you can even smudge it, you can erase it, and that when you erase it, it's not as nice as when you scrape it off. When you scrape it off, it's clean. When you erase it, it's dirty. He says, no, and you write the Eibishter's name, and even the Makma Machok. He says the whole name of Hashem has to be on top. Whatever, he scrapes out enough to write Elikim, but he says you can write on top of the Shim Shazuri. But he says, don't start writing the Hashem's name in the little space that you have and then start going sideways up. He says, don't do that. If there's no room for the whole name, put the name all the way on the top. Okay. So he said, he says you can't do nothing. Zero. So Kate said, what do you He says, no, garnish. You have to remove the whole yediyah, that whole parchment, and write over all the columns. So but if there was 4 columns, let's say, on the yediyah, and it was in the 4th column where the mistake was, right? So you only cut off the 4th column, and you attach another column, and you don't have to write over the other 3 columns. That's the halacha he brings down. Okay, that we do put Hashem's name on the top of the line. Halacha moichik. He says you can even erase the kaisef and you could and write Hashem's name on it. In fact, why are we saying in the name of the Amoraim? We have Tanoim who said it. Let Rav Chananel b'Shem Rav say the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, who's the Tano who said that. Uma halacha kema, and say Rabbi Babachon b'Shem Rav Yitzchak Rav Shmuel said like Rabbi Yitzchak, like the Tano Rabbi Yitzchak. We're not sure which one said what. We're not sure which of the Tanaim said what. So that's why we left it to the Amoraim. Whatever they said, the halacha is because we're clear what each one says. But with the Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbi Yitzchak, we don't know exactly which shita they said. The halacha is like Rabbi Shimon Shazuri that says you can don't start writing Hashem's name between 2 words and then go up sideways. Put it all the way on the top. And not only that, wherever it says Rav Shimon Shazuri, the halacha is like him. Where did the Rabbin say the halacha is like Rav Shimon Shazuri? Where was he talking about? If he was saying on this case, b'negayah to Hashem's name, don't start writing it between 2 words and go up sideways. Only put it on the top. He says, Rabbi Shimon Shazuri call Hashem kulei teilin mikzas ein teilin. Well, he says, you look, we already learned the machlokes, and Rabbi Shimon Shazuri's name is not even mentioned. Omar Rav Chanan, Omar Rav, halacha teilin is Hashem. The one said the name of Rav, the halacha is that you put Hashem's name on the top of the line. The Rabbi Balchan, Omar Rav Yitzchak, Rav Shmuel, halacha moichik, that you can even erase the whatever is there and put Hashem's name on the erased part, the chaysev. And if you're going to say Shimon Shazuri is also one of the deyas, lema. Say if Shimon Shazuri says you can't have miktsase, it has to be kulei toilet, and you should have finished off. You don't say that, so you cannot be talking about this case. Allah only Reb Shimon Shazuri afilu ben chamesh shanim chedesh masada shchitas imay mitahartoi. It's going on ben pakua. There's a din that a behemoth, if you did a shechita and you find there's a live behemoth in it, you don't have to shecht it. Not only that, the behemoth comes out alive, you can make it work for 5 years, pay it till it dies, and then you can take the behemoth and roast it right away. You don't have to be shechted. Ad k'dei kach in Australia, they want to. Yeah, you want to make use out of it. And you don't have to worry. So in Australia, a guy wanted to get rid of the shachten. They were making so much problems and so many behemoths they were losing. So he wanted to take a ben pakua, a behemoth that was born from a geshachtan behemoth, a male, and a female from another behemoth, put them together, have a whole bunch of behemoths. We won't need shchita anymore. So they got to their bottoms and gemacht a tumult. We're going to lose business, the shachten. So they asked the whole thing over there. Like you might,
That would be okay?
yeah. So the Gemara. So that's what Reb Shimon Shazuri said. You see, Reb Shimon Shazuri, we said the halach is like it. That even if the behemoth works for 5 years, right, and then it dies, you don't need no shchita. Okay, so the Gemara. That's where he said it. We learn if it says the Evi said it in the name of a Chanina, that the halach is like Reb Shimon Shazuri, and the saying was in the name of Ula. Why didn't you bring down Ula here also? Obviously, this is not the memra of Amar Rab Machina Amar Ula Amar Rab Chanina halach Reb Shimon Shazuri. He doesn't mention it. He only mentions the name of Zairi saying in the name of Chanina. So it's going on this case. But originally they said somebody's going to jail. He said, write a get to my wife. Even though he didn't get a chance to say, give it. We said as they're taking him out to get killed. So he left out the word to give. So we say he give it.
Why does he have to give a get it? He's going to kill him
That
anyway.
he shouldn't have to marry the brother. She didn't have any kids. So he wanted to save her from Yibum. Okay, very good that you asked there. I would have forgotten. And then he came and he said, not only that, even somebody who goes out on a ship, or somebody goes to the desert, to the midbar, and he says, "Kisu get leishti." He says even somebody who's in sakana, he's very sick, and he said, "Right again." You forgot to say no. The halacha is he give it. It's good. That's what Shimon Shazuri said. Inami. If you can say, or you could say that Shimon Shazuri said with the geya tumas ma'isa shel mai. The halacha is if you bought tumas ma'isa, you bought tumas ma'isa, and now the Amaratzim were chashud that they didn't take off ma'isa. But Sekund Shabbos they made a heter because you're not allowed to take off ma'isa on Shabbos. But if you bought it, you would have to take off ma'isa. But Shabbos you're being mesakin, metodich nicht. So what do they do in order to save the food? You want food for Shabbos. Einik Shabbos. So I gave some mitzvah. You're allowed to ask this Amaretz, did you take off Maisa? And if he says, yeah, you're allowed to eat. And then Shimon Shazuri says, that's not the only exception. Let's say his truma fell into the food that he bought from the Amaretz. He took off truma himself, but it fell back into the chulin, and it has to be memeya. So we have a problem. So he said you could still rely on asking the Amaretz if he took off. If he said he took off, it's all good. Says how could you say that? It says only that Rabbi Yochanan said the halach is like Rabbi Shimon Shazuri, but it doesn't say Ravin said in the name of Ula by Tumas Ma'isa Shaldamai and by Mesukin the halach is like him. He should have said it over there as well.
Hello?
Allah says, it goes only on this case. What's the case? Rabbi Yosef ben Kippurayim and Mishmir Shimon Shezuri. Pul mitzi shezeraye lezera. The pul mitzi is like this. You can have a din like a vegetable, or you can have a din like a seed. A vegetable, gate and basel akita, a meklaypt. That's when you go according to the Vedas. When you gather it for Maisa. But if you're going when it's a seed, you go basa hashrasha when it roots. Here we're talking about the pul mitzi was like a zera, which we go after the hashrasha. Miksasa hishish lifnei hashrasha, or miksasa achra hashrasha. Part was rooted before and part after, and we know ein tem mizal zeh. You cannot take one from the old for the new, or the new for the old. Kate said Yasa. What should he do? He takes all the granary, puts it together, so you have the old and the new together. And we could say at this time you know from the altar for the old ones and the new ones for the new ones. That's what Rav Shimon Shezuri said.
There's so much together.
It's so much together, and there is a big mixture. It says that Reb Yochanan said the halacha is like Reb Shimon Shezuri. It doesn't say that Abin said the name of Ula. He should have said that. And we'll stop over here. Tomorrow we'll finish.